this episode, Ilya, we're going to talk about mindset and mindset change within the construction industry. And I suppose what we see as a positive thing, but also something that needs to happen in a global and wide scale thing, I guess.
I think we mentioned in previous episodes a little, the shallow impact of mindset among all these different values and topics and factors that affect the industry today. And yeah, as you say, mindset is one of the biggest ones that affects to individuals, and that it goes from the bottom up. Like it starts small, step by step, but actually is the one that makes the biggest impact. Is that the one that needs to embrace every other single factor to create a disruption. And
it's also the one thing that individuals by themselves have full control of is their mindset. So what we do today and how we perceive the industry can be changed at any moment in time. All we have to do really is to think about it and consider it. So we have the power as individuals to change our mindset by education is one thing, getting more information or more involved in the communication around this disruption and this need for revolution within the industry. But we talked a little bit before about how our industry is very conservative, and that has an effect on people's mindset as well. We become a little bit institutionalized in the way we think and the way we view our industry. And that affects our mindset and our view of the industry. An example would be within the industry, construction in general. We never seem to look outwardly to other industries to try and learn from those industries to try and improve what we do. I guess in a much more global sense, we do not look into other countries to see how they've developed as much. We look inwardly the whole time. And I guess we look inwardly as individuals as well within the industry, because that's how the industry is set up. Projects are singular, linear processes. You have a start, you have a finish, you move to the next project. And our mindsets must be set in that same way as well, right? So I guess why we're talking about this is we want people to consider how they view their industry. We want people to consider how they work, and we want people to consider perhaps challenging certain aspects of what they do on a daily basis, right? Change that mindset.
We work with many different teams globally, so international teams. And one of the first things you notice is that inevitably the mindset is different because, of course, it has an influence, a cultural influence, local, and the way things are handled in each of the cultures and each of these countries. But I also think that this mindset culture, it is different across different industries. And I wanted to ask you, do you think that the mindset is something that is exclusively individual and that it actually needs to come voluntarily, and that it comes to something that we have growth with
as individuals,
or is something that we can actually try and change as individuals, or it needs to be enforced by changing practices in the business, in the companies? So it needs to be kind of...
Yeah, you're right. People are different. And of course, mindset is different within people. Some people will find it much easier to change their mindset and to challenge their current way of working and their current daily activity. Other people will struggle a little bit more with that, I guess because of fear, perhaps, of change, but also complacency. They're relaxed in their environment, so there is no need for change.
Or the way they are as individuals. Right?
Yeah.
I think we have grown to that, and the way you react and the way you are either more conflictive or more transparent or more, team working or more individual working, more competitive. That's something that not always is on your control, and you prefer to have control over things, or you are more spontaneous towards the job. And sometimes that's not up to you, I suppose, right? But then who can actually manage that? I believe we as individuals can change that a little, but to what extent?
Yeah.
It is something that, how can that change for the better?
Yeah.
Hopefully.
The advantages, I guess, are within teams and within organizations and within departments, people are mixed. So you will have this mix of mindset the whole time within groups. So people need to help each other in terms of challenging their views, challenging their understanding, challenging the way they perceive the industry as a whole. I had an old colleague of mine once said to me, his grandmother could categorize everybody into two separate categories. Either you're a farmer or you're a hunter. The farmer is the one that protects their own farms, the land, stays in one position. The hunter is the one that goes out for the adventure in order to serve the family by bringing home what is needed. And I think it was an interesting kind of concept because it's very simple, but also very contrasting, right? So either you never leave what you know, or you never stay where you are. You're always moving, and the same principle, I guess, could be applied to the industry and the people we work with, right?
I thought you were gonna say people that likes pineapple in their pizza and people that doesn't, But
love pineapple in my pizza.
Yeah.
Love pineapple in my pizza. Yeah.
Right.
But hey, there's another categorization. Either you like pineapple on your pizza or you don't, right? But so that type of individual, or those type of individuals, these two contrasting individuals, the yin and the yang, right? They're in every team. So I guess in that respect, we have the opportunity as individuals to communicate more about our views on the industry and why we think it might be better or obviously worse to change. Contrasting views are very, very important to discuss.
We can change the way we work or the way we face situations, so our mindset, right? By actually learning from others. And then a good way to push that or to facilitate that is to actually get mixed teams with different backgrounds.
Yeah.
And then I will note to that it's not only the backgrounds, it's not only having different profiles, different education. So the one that comes from civil and buildings, or the ones that come from economics or from IT, and mix them together as different professional profiles, but also different backgrounds, different maybe like different family backgrounds. The ones that have been
it has an influence
growing
on
with
everything.
more commodities, the ones with less, the ones that have traveled the world, the ones that have been always local. Age might be also a huge factor to learn from. So I've always had in mind that you learn from the wisers, you learn from the ones with more experiences. But actually, sometimes it opens your mind to hear from the ones that have never faced that situation or that circumstance, and how they will actually think out of the box, because they don't have the reference or the precedent of how that has been always solved the same way. So maybe they actually came out with totally different.
But that's an interesting point, actually. Our industry, being very traditional, was always very hierarchical, right? So it was always, the bosses at the top, and they generally were people with lots of years of experience that climbed that particular ladder, and obviously the people further down the levels were the more inexperienced, meaning they were technically, and I'll use this very carefully, the less valuable. But that's changing. Like how the way we have structured what we do is we call ourselves an organism, where every individual has an equal kind of place within that organism and feeding their value into that organism. So I think the tradition, again, we come back to the traditional industry we work in, we talk about the traditional structures and the traditional processes, means we have a traditional mindset. But if we alter this hierarchy view and become more flat structured, allowing everybody to have a voice, then it allows us also to consider giving our opinion. And if we can give in our opinion, maybe we can change someone's mindset. Maybe we can change someone's views on the way they think and so on. So I think that's a good point. It's not just because you have 20 plus years of experience, you're more wise than the person that is just coming out of university with just graduated. I think digitization is changing that a little bit now because it's affecting all of these valuable kind of assets and experiences. It's all mixing now.
And I think that one of these fear to change the way we work is because you foresee that you need to learn a totally different skill when you actually are very skilled or very knowledgeable on what you do. And I actually support that. I don't think that the change involves changing drastically the way we are working. I think that having a precedent or like having this large experience, you also has built an understanding of what you have struggled the most and what is actually what have to change. And maybe it is people with new perspectives that are more motivated, less frustrated because they haven't gone through these struggles, but that actually need to hear what needs to change, what is more priorities of improve as per the experience of the more the ones that have spent more years on it.
What are the repeat issues from their experience on projects, and how can we perhaps alter that? We talked many years ago about this idea of if you're repeating something manual over and over again on your project, perhaps there's a possibility to digitize it and automate it. Because if you have to repeat this simple task over, it takes effort and time, which means it takes brain power and it takes for you to concentrate. Whereas you can automate that somehow, you could concentrate on something that's more valuable. And even that's a simple mind shift change, and I think that those little things, again, mind shift and the change we're talking about, yes, it's very big and it's when we look at the industry, but in simple terms, it can be very, very small as well. And I think that's the message we're trying to get across to people, is that everybody has a voice. Your mindset should not be it shouldn't be a stone, it should be water, it should be fluid, it should be constantly moving and changing and adapting.
And digitalization or these new processes doesn't necessarily involve forcing everybody to it. I think that that will be a lost value. You should not put someone to do something that is not natural or it's not, it will take more time than actually doing the way they do it. That wouldn't be more efficient, that would be inefficient. I think that it is about putting the right person, the right asset to the right tasks. And of course, creating this change, this changes small, but precise and
impactful, if you like.
Impactful, yeah.
So I guess what you're saying is that there's no point putting a cost manager to do elements of coding if that particular cost manager doesn't like coding. Maybe they prefer something else, and you bring in a programmer who's not associated with the industry but really loves programming to develop that aspect of whatever it is you're trying to do. So putting the right person in the right place, not necessarily just by qualification.
No. But you really, really need to change the mindset of that team to make them collaborate with each other, to make them not compete, but actually share and be a unit, be an organism, as you were mentioning before, so that they actually work together towards something by supporting each other. So it's about actually making them relay and support each other in what they do the best and what they like the most on their job, right? What they don't struggle with and is natural to them. I can see in this regard, it's about talking and communicating. Like if something takes you more than 10 minutes to find a piece of information, you are constantly actually looking. So it's something not punctual, but often that you look for, and it takes you more than 10 minutes to find it. Something is failing. So that means that needs to be improved. That needs to be looked into and find an alternative. How do we store our information? How do we store our data? So actually I can access it faster. And the same principle applies to everything. It's about communicating and complaining in a way, like highlighting or making track of what is not.
Yeah. So what you're emphasizing there already is a mind shift change, right? People who are listening to this should consider their daily tasks about how they work, what they do, and is there something they can improve on. Another kind of point was for companies and organizations. I think the structure of organizations is changing. I believe that what you'll end up seeing is very specialist organizations partnering, teaming, and outsourcing. It's not everything needs to be under the one roof, and that's a mind shift change in how business is structured. And I think what you get from that is you get more qualified people supporting you and your business. The same principles should apply to construction projects. Why do we still try to create specific teams? We try, for example, our very large infrastructure projects, capital projects. They're projects that are public money, very large. We try to build individual one-off teams to deliver those projects. Every time we try to do this, but it takes you months, if not years, to build a culture and to build a team. So we spend so much time trying to build the team that we're not able to concentrate on the project.
The confidence between the different members so that they actually work as a unit. Yeah.
It becomes impossible. So a shift in that would be bringing in, partners and individual specialist companies to service a certain part of the project delivery. The same principle should apply to your smaller project teams. Look for the people that are able to really specialize in that delivery in order to improve. Again, we come back to value. We talked a lot about it previously. It's about value creation by reducing cost and increasing quality. Mind shift change.
It's not only the time they will invest and spend on actually building the relationship between the individuals and the members to work as a unit, but also the time that they will need to spend on understanding and feeling confident with the job, right? If it's someone, on the other hand, that do that every single day, the knowledge and the specialization that person or that team builds around that material, around that topic is invaluable, and no other team that tries to achieve that in a single project will manage that level of knowledge.
And I guess, again, this can't happen until people start questioning how teams are structured and start questioning how projects are actually delivered. And again, you spoke a little bit about it there. I think it's an important point to talk about. If people are happy in what they do, they'll produce better stuff. They'll produce better work. They'll have a better time. So, and our industry struggles with that a little bit, and I think it is important for us to consider, again, in our daily activity, whether we are directors, whether we are line managers, whether we are specialists, it doesn't matter who we are, what level we're at, where we work, we should be questioning and constantly challenging our environment around us. It might not even relate to the construction industry. It might relate to everything that's around us, from school to lifestyle to.
We both have worked in the Nordics, and to me has been a huge revelation. Their understanding of the job not being something that you live for, but actually that
supports you, not you supporting it.
Yeah, it's secondary, and I think that's very important, because while having that mindset around what a job means in your life, you actually achieve to be more efficient in a way, because it's not something you live for. It's something that you do because you enjoy, and if you don't, you just change your career. And having that freedom obviously is a privilege, having the freedom to actually choose the job and the career that you want to have. But nowadays, that's actually something that a lot of people could do, and they actually don't do, because they don't they're afraid of it, or they don't foresee that as a possibility, but it is.
That old saying of work-life balance, I don't particularly like it. I prefer to flip it and say life-work balance. Why does work become before life? Now, I'm a bit of a hypocrite that way, though, but because I like to work a lot, that's just what I do. But
it's not a job if it's a hobby, right?
But it's a choice. But it is a choice, though.
It is
a choice. So people, again, it's a mindset shift as well. And again, we all have to work at this every day, don't we? You know. Yeah, but working in Denmark for sure, and a lot of the Nordic countries are like that. It opens your eyes, and that's the value that we have of working with different cultures and working with different people and backgrounds, is that it allows you to reconsider your mindset, reconsider your frame. And I think as our industry becomes more globalized, which it is and it will be, we should really open our eyes to this type of situation.
Yeah, to the opportunities and not get stuck on actually what we do every day. If we don't enjoy waking up every morning, then something is failing, something is not working. And that same is applicable. So it's like a change. The job, your vision of your job is also about changing the mindset around an industry that is actually not working. Today it's not working. Construction teams are very conflictive, especially during execution. There is a lot of conflict, a lot of non-resolved disputes, and it's about being always aggressive. That's something very common as well, about
absolutely.
Trying to cheat. There's a lot of corruption in construction, and there is a lot of uncontrol over the processes and not very good team environments, very toxic environments, and that's very sad to see, because there's construction projects everywhere every day.
It's again, we mentioned before, it's part of our everyday life. It's our built environment. It's what we look at. It's what we live in. It's what we move around in. It's what we enjoy, and it affects us greatly, not just us working in the industry. So part of this mind shift change and part of this revolution is not just about increasing value in terms of a monetary sense. It's about increasing quality of life and value for the people in the industry and around the industry. That's how you changing your mindset as an individual, that's the impact it will have on your team, the people around you, the industry at large, and then obviously society. So it becomes a very important part of this revolution we're talking about, because at the end of the day, we invest so much in construction that we should be looking at ways to optimize and to become better and better to increase that value for us, for our families, and for the greater good, I guess, right?
You were talking about lineality at the beginning of the episode, and I will actually like to close with that, so that we don't make the episode linear. I would like to grab it up actually and make it start on the beginning.
So basically, linear process, a start and an end, and all our projects are kind of managed in that way. And this is a little bit of an issue, not just for projects, but also for everything around the project, right?
Are we gonna put this episode on a loop so it will never end?
So it keeps going,
yeah, because in reality, construction is about that. Really, it starts, it ends. But a construction project may last 100 years, since it is in inception and feasibility studies. Then we have the design phase, construction, and then all the operation and maintenance. And it is a pity that actually us in a mindset, we are like totally disconnected as stakeholders on the different chapters of the life of a building. It's rarely the developers that actually live to see the entire life of those projects. And it's the same with the designers. They rarely are involved in the entire life cycle of a building, while actually buildings are always the same and they are totally comparable to each other in this circularity factor.
And you're only talking about the building aspect itself from design, but look at the material aspect and the production and the generation of the materials used in buildings. Every building we construct, we take some natural resource from somewhere else. And that's something really to consider when we think about our industry and the mindset we have towards our industry. Right?
So I think that the first step towards change is actually sit down, make a reflection of what we do, what do we receive from previous stakeholders? What do we produce for future stakeholders? What do we produce for the people working with us? How do we interface with other team members, with other project colleagues and stakeholders? And what is the relationship actually between us as professionals in construction and the building, considering not only what is in front of us and the short term of our job production, but actually the entire life of a construction project. I think we've started seeing that far now that we are looking at sustainability
and so on, and reuse and cradle
and
to
the
cradle.
impact of the construction industry in the environment, and it's now when we start thinking on the long term and that not only affects to the building and the construction and the impact on the environment, but also to the personal relationships and the way we
work.
We are doing the processes on the profession.
Yeah, right now, if we look at how we work in a general sense on projects, it's siloed, and the project life cycle is siloed also, right? It's all vertical. We have this period of time and this period of time, and the interconnection between it is missed. That horizontal aspect is sometimes missed, and the same can be applied for how we view ourselves and view the teams we work in, right? So when you talk about we create something and to understand how that something will be used in the future, it's not the building we're talking about, it's not the product, that end asset we're talking about, it's the information that you produce as the specialist on the project, for example, like the cost manager, the information they produce, the cost plans, the cost estimates, the bills of quantities, the final accounts, the claims, the variations, all of that aspect is valuable information that should be used not in the linear sense, the start and the finish, but the circular sense, where it's fed back into the start of the next project and the next project, so other teams and people can learn from your work as an individual.
And not only siloed, as you would say before, to your profession, but actually I think that it's time to start thinking on how the information will be used by other disciplines, how that affects the other disciplines, how that affects other factors of the project, not only the information you produce for the job you do, but actually how it is produced for others to actually use,
to understand, and
that's about communicating that to everybody, so that you can ensure that it is readable. It is,
So allow people to hack your information, to use it for within them, like an open sourced, transparent information, if you like. And I think we're going to talk about transparency in another podcast, because it's an important part of the industry, and transparency takes a mind shift, because right now in the industry we're not very transparent at all in the industry. We try to hide as much as everything that we produce in terms of information. So there's a mind shift change required there to allow people to have access to your information.
Very much connected to sharing and actually caring for others to be able to understand what you write. So it's about doing a little effort to produce something in a language that others can use and understand.
No, that's a very important point, and I guess a little message to everybody is just have a think about that on your current project, in your current team, how that affects you and how that you relate to that information to others. Yeah, very interesting point. Yeah. Did you have another one you wanted to speak about, or was that it?
It's just about but I think it's very important to make a self-reflection of what do we do and why do we do the way we do it, and if we see that there is room for improvement, I think that's actually the way we all as a group can change something that obviously in many aspects it's not working, and even if it's working, I think
it can always be improved, perhaps.
It should be improved. It should be improved, and it's on us. So we should not blame others for it not happening if we are not doing that little effort, at least individually.
Oh, as we mentioned, we have the absolute power and control over this for ourselves as individuals. It's something that, yes, other people can affect, but they do not have control over. we can make this decision for ourselves. We can decide whether we want to open our mind to new information and so on. That's the privilege we have actually in what we do within the industry and with the people that we work with. So I think it would be foolish of us not to use that privilege.
Yeah, and let's feel confidence about that. I think that we should support colleagues that are actually already on that path, and don't judge them for sharing their opinion, no matter how controversial it may be. I think sometimes thinking out of the box involves suggesting crazy things, and it will be foolish not to at least consider them. So let's not discard them. I don't think ages ago people will think that we will be here, with a computer in our phones, which is in our pockets is a mobile phone. I think that we need to think big. We need to think the craziness, and then out from there maybe scale it down. But let's not reject opinions from our colleagues, no matter how
development and progress is only limited by our mindset and by our imagination, really. So it's the old saying is the sky is the limit. You can never reach it, but
and if someone feels judged in a team, they will never feel confident to actually share their honest opinion and their deepest thoughts on how to change and how to contribute with their own ideas. So it's about actually supporting others to bring it in.
Unfortunately, I guess because we work in big teams, you're not always going to get that support, but be aware of that as well. Not every manager or line manager or leader is going to be satisfied by that, because change and speaking the truth and talking about disruption, that has an impact on people's security and how they view and value and see their position and their profession. So it's not always going to be positive. There will always be negativity around it, but you have to have, again, the yin and the yang, the plus and the minus, the farmer and the hunter. It's always going to be that way. So I think we've covered mindset change, mindset kind of revolution, if you like.
As an individual, as a group, and as a whole in the entire life cycle of a project.
So I guess it's over to the people now. Thanks very much for listening. There's a LinkedIn link below in the show notes. We would love to connect with you.
We hope you enjoyed it and have you with us in the next one. Thank you very much.